the Mandarin duck, one of the most beautiful ducks there is. How to tame your Mandarin duck. This method can be used for other ducks as well. There can be a variety of different ways you can use this process depending on your goals and depending on your duck. Of course, the first important thing for your duckling is for it to be provided with food, kept warm, and water. But that's Duckling Care 101. We're going to go straight to imprinting our ducklings. Talking to it before it even comes out of the shell, since sound is the first thing a duckling imprints to. Then once it's safe to be in the brooder, you can start spending time handling the duckling. As much time as possible, handling it, including its beak and its feet. Also getting it used to your voice. Now we're going to get a little scientific-y. We're going to use positive reinforcement, which is presenting a motivating item, such as a pea, after a desired behavior is exhibited, such as the duck comes, making the behavior more likely to occur again in the future. Remember, each duck is different, and what might be motivating and reinforcing for one duck may not be for another. So learn what your duck likes, whether it's peas, watermelon, mealworms, etc. So, for an example, we want the duck to come. That's the desired behavior. The reinforcement will be the pea. That will increase the frequency of the desired behavior happening again. We're going to use the process called shaping, which is successive approximations towards the goal behavior. In other words, baby steps. Take your time as need be, making sure the duck is comfortable with each step before moving on to the next. An example would be, you want the duck to look at the object first, then approach the object, then touch the object, then stay at the object, and then increase time at the object. Again, making sure the duck is comfortable one step before moving on to the next. So first we want our ducklings to get used to spending time with our hands around its food, then holding its food dish. Then to the point where we'll be so comfortable it will take food out of our hand. Remember, have patience and go as slow as you need to. Watch your duckling's body language to make sure it feels comfortable before moving on to the next step. You can get to the point where the duck will feel comfortable enough to take a single reinforcement, such as a pea or a mealworm, from your hand. This way you can reinforce or reward a specific duck or specific behavior. Food is one type of a motivator for a Mandarin, but there are other ways and other things that are reinforcing for a duck. And for a Mandarin, perching. Mandarins love to perch. So an example for shaping. I grabbed a beach chair, placed a duckling in a pool with my feet in the water, allowing it to get comfortable with my foot just being in the water and the duckling being around my foot. You can reinforce with food. In this case, water itself is reinforcing. You want the duckling to feel comfortable with your foot being closer and closer to it, to the point where the duckling itself will approach your foot and be very comfortable with that step. In this case, I also lowered my leg into the water, as I'm going to begin having it perch on my leg. So I start the process again. First, the duck, getting used to my leg being in the water. I wanted to get used to the leg approaching it, being very slow and cautious, being careful not to let the duckling be scared. This is not the first time these ducklings have seen my leg. You can reinforce with each step of progress. In this case, since the ducklings have already been on my leg, the reinforcement will be allowing it to perch. At first, the duck may just step on your leg, and that's fine. Let it go and come as it pleases. The same process will be used when you want it to perch on your hand or your arm. Use reinforcement each time. You gradually build up the time that it spends on its perch. Here you can see the duck's body language shows how comfortable it is by its preening. Important to watch your duck's body language so you know when to move on to the next step. In this case, I had multiple ducklings. I had 4 in the pool at a time. Having a buddy around makes the ducklings feel better. They are sociable animals. To the point where they feel comfortable being on the perch by themselves. Preening is a good example, showing that the duck is comfortable enough, wanting to perch. You use this same step-by-step process when you're wanting the duck to perch on your hand or your arm, whatever the case may be, to the point where the duck comes to your perch. Remember to use reinforcement the duckling likes, especially when you're moving the perch. In this case, the duck is coming up higher onto my leg. I have a handful of peas to increase the amount of time it stays up on the higher perch. As you can see here, he feels very comfortable eating the peas out of my hand on the perch. Let him go and come as he pleases. Build up that trust factor. Communication is important. It works both ways. Watch your duck's body language. In this case, the duckling tapped my foot with his beak to let me know he wants to perch, and the reinforcement or the reward is hiring the perch so he can preen and also see what's going on around him. Again, the same process can be used when teaching the duck to perch on your hand. So cues. When to add a cue? Well, when the goal behavior you want is completely trained. Is the behavior predictable? When you have the behavior you want, then insert your cue, your word or your sound, just prior to the behavior. In this case, I use a whistle to call the ducks when I want them to come. I whistle, then I present the food. I know the behavior is predictable because when they see the food dish, they will automatically come towards the food. So I wait until I know the behavior will happen. Once that happens, I add my cue, which in this case is my whistle, present the food, and then they get the reinforcement. This is what positive reinforcement is all about. And as you can see, the ducklings feel very comfortable, building up that trust factor. Crate training is important for trust factor as well. For transport, first present the crate in an area where they hang out, so the duckling gets used to it being in its environment. Place the food at first so it kind of gets curious and check things out. Let him go in and out as he wants to. Then eventually don't put any food. Wait until the duck enters the crate, then provide the reinforcement, such as a pea. Let him come in and out as he wants to. Then gradually, once he goes in, close the door, then present the pea, the reinforcement, the reward, increasing the amount of the time the door is closed, gradually, slowly. Why do we use crate training? Because it's easier than using a net and helps build up the trust factor with the duck. You want to start this process actually when they're very young, as young as a week or 2 weeks old. You can also use your training at the same time with a domestic duck. Not necessary though, but sometimes it does help. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching. Join us at Facebook Quackers All Things Duck.